New Orleans signed CJ Spiller for something other than sitting on the fucking bench.
31 other passes that should have been intercepted with you.
So that's why I have David Johnson on my board higher.
If you're doing a live draft, wait till you're drunk to draft this guy. We welcome you to the Fifth Down.
Yo, what's up? It's Johnny Slokes. You're here at the Fifth Down, giving you the extra down advantage. Today is going to be a pretty exciting show, so get your headphones in, light up a beezy. If you can't, like me, light up a stogie and get some beer, and ready to go. Got my partner in crime, K-Mill, and
hey,
I got a special guest today, the PK Ripper.
What's going on, fellas?
All right, today we're going to do episode 20, it's a little bit of in-season strategy. I'm really excited to have PK on the show. Yo, PK, what is in-season strategy? Does the strength of schedule play into a part of how you draft your team?
Oh, absolutely. Strength of schedule is a big part, especially when you get past week 4 in the season. And once you get past week 4, you kind of got the lay of the land a little bit. You got to see what the trend of the where receptions are coming from and running and carries and stuff are coming from. So you get to see it, get the feel of the league as a whole as far as – because when you're drafting, pretty much you're basically going off of last year's statistics. You know what I mean? So when you first start that season – yeah, exactly. So much. So in that first 4-week span, that's where you really get to see what's happening with the league. You kind of base your moves on where the league is trending at that time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, usually you're not going to see like what a team truly looks like until like about week 5 or 6, so that's a good point to bring up. There's a couple of teams that actually have, based on last year, a pretty good schedule for the first 4 games, but overall, like, their schedule doesn't look too great. Some of the teams that have a pretty easy schedule throughout the season, teams like Cleveland, Detroit, Dallas, Chicago, the Giants, Green Bay. Those are like the teams that have like the easier schedule. But then towards like the end of the season, you got teams like Detroit has a really good playoff schedule. So maybe Matthew Stafford could be like a guy you want to like look for towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I was also looking at that Denver schedule, and it looks like to start the season they have a really hard schedule, but it really starts getting way easier towards the end of the season. And then on the opposite of the spectrum, you got Oakland, who starts the season out on a cakewalk. They play New Orleans, Atlanta, Tennessee, Baltimore, and San Diego. So, you know, I personally like, you know, if you got Amari Cooper, I think he's going to put up some good numbers those first 6 weeks.
I mean, yeah, granted, if we're just going off of last season, but that would probably be pretty good. Like PK brought up, you want to like kind of wait the season out a little bit and kind of see how things mold. So what are some players that you're trying to look for towards the beginning of the season, PK?
Well, towards the beginning of the season, I kind of like anybody on Tampa right now. I kind of like Mike Evans a little bit more as off season's going on, and then Doug Martin. He's got a great strength of schedule, and Tampa holds true all the way through the season, even into the playoffs, you know?
I know that week 14 they do get to play, I could be wrong, I think San Diego. So that could be a nice little playoff matchup for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So we also wanted to talk about a little bit of trading techniques. Like, what are some of the ways that you like to bait people into trades that you want?
Well, there's so many ways to like influence people in your league. Usually, if you know your league mates, you're gonna want to play to their heartstrings a lot, you know, and you're gonna want them to covet the players on your team that are actually on their favorite team. You might have a Patriots fan in your league, so you'll be able to dump off some Patriot players and maybe get something better value, maybe more down the road, you know.
I love that strategy. I love doing that all the time.
It's a big thing. It's one of my number one rules is to know your league, know your league mates, know your scoring system, because some people don't draft accordingly to their scoring system all the time. What I like to do sometimes in my trade is maybe not exactly show my true hand like right away. Like I'll kind of start like a little bit off. Like I'll try to lowball them a little bit to see like exactly where they value their players, and then kind of progressively work into that trade. Like you gotta have some negotiation skills with it, but kind of like negotiate a little bit closer to what you're actually wanting.
Well, one way to find out what your league mates really want is to go ahead at the beginning of the season and have that trade block set up, because then you'll start to eye the players that they're coveting, who they are looking at on your roster or other rosters, as well as the players they're more willing to give up and which ones they value as untradeable.
Yeah, I've also noticed too, out of personal experience, that you look at if you got a guy that somebody really wants, they'll pester you for weeks and weeks about him, like, hey, what do you want for him? What do you want for him? And if you can just kind of hold true, like I've noticed this really pays off. You just kind of let the value build up and just wait and he keeps pestering you, and then you're like, all right, let's really talk deal. Like just kind of deny him, and then all of a sudden let's start talking, and then he'll usually pay a little more because he's been waiting and he really wants that player.
What I know is we got a guy in there that really likes the Los Angeles Rams. I think that if you can, he's going to pester you for, like, say, a guy like Todd Gurley. I know he's also really big on like golf. I don't really care for him too much, but if you can play to his needs a little bit throughout the season, you could get some good value for it. And a player that kind of intrigues me is that could be some good trade bait this year is a guy like Drew Brees, because that New Orleans actually has a pretty good like starting schedule, but they actually have a pretty rough schedule towards the end. They play teams like Seattle and Arizona and all that. But I think Drew Brees is a guy that you can start for the first like 4 or 5 weeks, and then maybe you can look to move him off and get some good value for him, because he's going to be putting up some good numbers towards the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that one.
Yeah, especially like I was going to say, if you got a guy like Tom Brady waiting in the wings, you start Drew Brees off on the first 4 games suspended, and then Brady comes back in that week 5. Brees is on the bye. Guess what? You see how Brady goes, and then you could dump Brees off maybe and get some value for him.
Yeah, it's the same point with a guy like Eli Manning. I know that they play Dallas, New Orleans, Washington, Minnesota, and Dallas again. So like that's another guy that you can probably hold your team up until Tom Brady comes back. You got I know Cincinnati doesn't have too bad of a schedule, although they do have to play Denver. But it's just stuff like that could really add the total fantasy points to your team. I'm a big component about pairing up a couple of quarterbacks, because I'm not necessarily one of those guys that goes for those high-end quarterbacks, but if you can get some of those mid-tier guys and you can mix and match them together, you can get some really good fantasy value together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You could look at guys like Matt Stafford and a Kirk Cousins. You can get guys like that late. Sure enough, Phillip Rivers. I like Phillip Rivers. I know you guys like Rivers too. You could get so many guys. Even you could get Fitzpatrick when he has a good tear. You could run with a lot of different quarterbacks if you're going to go with that quarterback league strategy, no doubt.
Yeah, and PK, I actually had a question for you. So when you're looking at, like, say, guys in the deeper league, like some streamers and stuff, do you look at strength of schedule as far as, like, saying taking shots on guys? Because I know Baltimore has a really good schedule this year against opposing defenses, as far as, like, secondaries go. So, I mean, like, when you look at that, are you maybe looking at guys like late, like a Mike Wallace or something, thinking having resurgent seasons or something like that, if you're talking about guys that you might need to stream in it, like a double flex league or something like that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, definitely. I put a lot of things into account besides strength of schedule, too. I also go on, like you said, with the defensive matchups. I play in IDP leagues, too, so I kind of watch both sides of the ball on that. But as far as what Baltimore has, see, the thing with Baltimore is there's so many mouths to feed there, and really, where's Flacco going to go? I don't really see Mike Wallace as, like, the end-all, be-all there, and Steve Smith is good when he could stay healthy. He's awesome. I mean, I like his moxie, and I like the way he plays. I think he'll command targets. But I think really Kamar Aiken is going to be due for some really good things this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm trying to get some good feel for it, because I was looking at Mike Wallace and I was like, wow, man, he could be in for some good numbers this year. An extreme sleeper, no doubt, but yeah, I agree with you on Kamar Aiken, though. I think that he's going to be the biggest mouth to feed there.
I mean, he could potentially play in a high-volume role, and you can get him pretty late. So I think that's a really good value there. I know we brought up Kamar Aiken many times in this show. He's definitely my value at receiver this year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking at him as my fourth receiver on a lot of teams.
Yeah, definitely. I like him too. And then if you could shift back towards your coast there, there's a guy who just got there from Cleveland, and his name is Travis Benjamin. He's somebody who I really like a lot, and I'm trying to get a lot of his stock in a lot of leagues, man.
Yeah, I think he's flying a little bit under the radar as well.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up, PK, because he's a guy that's been on my radar for a while too. I think you're getting great value for Travis Benjamin right now on what he can put up, because he was the number one receiver in Cleveland last year, and I think that Philip Rivers in that pass-heavy offense, I think it's going to be a great fit.
He's going to open up the field down there, and let Allen run the middle routes like he likes to do, and I think they'll open it up big time for him.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right.
And Felipe Rios over there chucking the rock. I mean, you can't not like that, because they're going to throw the ball. They're very toned to throwing that rock everywhere. And they play a lot from behind. And who knows, with the Bosa situation, how good is the defense going to be on the other side of the ball for him anyway? They're going to be fighting to stay in games a lot. So I really like him there.
Absolutely.
All right. So I guess we'll get into a little bit like waiver wire tactics a little bit. Like, I know some people like to set their alarms for like early, like Wednesday, Thursday. Are you a guy that likes to do that?
Oh, yeah, I live and die by that, man. I mean, I set myself up on the wire where I can eventually be one of the top claims. So if a big blow-up player is available, I get first crack at him. But throughout the season, you're not always going to have that opportunity. So you kind of set your alarm for like 4:15 in the morning, and don't wake up your wife, bro, because I've done that before too, and she looks at me funny in the morning when she gets up. So you got to make sure you keep it kind of quiet, and you're creeping in the house at 4 in the morning, and then as soon as the waiver's clear, you check your transaction logs up, and then you see who's available, man. And you got to go deep into it too, because there's going to be players out there, and it's like using the strength of schedule to your advantage too, especially when it comes to matchups. And which players are best available. But, yeah, transaction log and the waiver wire, I live off of that. That's my supplemental draft all year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you live and die off of the waiver wire.
I'm a guy that likes to check the log even like 3 or 4 times a day, because I know last year there was a guy that dropped Jonathan Stewart. I mean, unfortunately, I was too far down the waiver wire list to get him, but if you're at the top of that waiver wire list, that's a guy that you could just pounce on right away.
Oh, yeah, and that was the same.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that was the same league, too, where D-Jax got dropped, too, and I was like, what the fuck's going on with these people?
I mean, yeah, he was out for like half the season, but he put up a couple of good games towards the end.
Oh, I love
I had guys drop Sammy Watkins because he started the season so bad and so slow, and then all of a sudden I grabbed him up. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I had Sammy Watkins on my team last year, and I came pretty close to dropping him, but then I was like, no, I don't feel comfortable just dropping him. Maybe I'll try to put him on the block and see what I can get, but I was just getting a bunch of low ball offers, so I was like, no, I'll just keep him, and it really paid off. So.
Well, and yes. I just wanted to mention something about the waiver wire too. You look at that, and PK brought a really good point, because, and on a lot of Yahoo ones, I know that you check it at midnight, and usually waivers clear at midnight on that last night before.
Here on the West Coast.
Yeah, here on the West Coast. So right when those waivers clear, I'm looking, and I'm seeing, did my guy get taken or whatever, or did he get claimed? And because I don't like wasting one, I like putting myself in a good spot, getting like that 2 or 3 or even 1 waiver priority and saving it until get an absolute blow up, because I did get a couple guys that were on a tear last year. Like I think I picked up Stephon Diggs. In one league I got David Johnson. Another league I got Thomas Rawls. I mean, and then I got them all right when they went on their tears, and it was great.
Yeah, you're going to find that stuff, especially when the bye weeks come into play and players are dropping players onto the wire just to fill up their needs for that week. You've got an opportunity right there to grab a pretty decent, potentially good plays right there as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
The thing about
definitely.
waiting about the waiver wire is, like, say if you wait after the waiver wire is done and you wait until, like, the first come, first serve, you can save yourself that waiver wire pick and stay at the top of the order. And that way you're not wasting your like a number 1 or 2 waiver wire pick on, say, like a defense or a kicker. Like, a lot of seasons people that do that, and I think that's a big mistake.
Oh, yeah. I don't take a kicker or a defense until, like, the last 2 rounds. Like, that's not even close to a priority for me.
Well, I'm talking about like
neither.
during the season, people waste a waiver wire pick on a kicker or a defense, and I think it's a big mistake. You should just wait until the first come, first serve, or wait until like Sunday and wait for like a kicker that's like in like a good weather game against like a bad defense or something, you know?
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Or you watch other teams in the league and you see what their rosters look like, and you'll be like, okay, well, he's got a bye coming up for this guy, so he has 2 kickers on his roster. Once that bye goes, he's going to drop that other kicker. I'll have him available to me right away.
Wow, great point.
And then, yeah, I know there's people that will draft like Denver, Seattle's defense early in the draft, but not realizing that they're going to have to waste a waiver pick to pick up a defense unless they want to drop that defense, you know?
Right. It all depends on how many bench spots you got in your league too, and the caps too, on what the amount of players you can keep too. Because some leagues I play in, there's a certain cap on running backs and receivers, linebackers, whatever, even defenses. So you can only keep a certain amount of players on your roster in those leagues.
Right, and you're
played
limited
leagues
to
like
what
that
you
too.
can't pick up.
And then I know we already covered up the trades a little bit, but there's some leagues where if you do a trade with somebody, and say you're doing like a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-2 trade, sometimes they'll give them an invalid roster, and then they'll be forced them to drop someone too.
Yeah, and then you can find talent right there. Yep, definitely. But a lot of leagues, you're gonna kind of even it out a little bit when you're making the trades, just to make it look good. But it doesn't mean that a good player won't get dropped in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some good value drop out of nowhere, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay, I'll take them.
Yeah, if you don't want them, I'll have them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I got a bench spot for them.
And if some leagues, you might have IR spots available, And I'll tell you what, if you got IR spots, you start grabbing some of those injured guys who you think are going to come on. 2 years ago, I had Odell Beckham sitting on my IR, and then he freaking came on and exploded. You know what I mean? I just held on.
A lot of teams' championship rosters his rookie year.
Yeah, no doubt. Mine's included, so I can't complain about anything with ODB. He's just a freak. But it's just the point of having these guys sitting on your roster. Yeah, you may not be playing them now, and if you got a spot to hold them, because you know why, too? When he comes back, the other team might be in dire straits, too. They're coming up on a matchup with you where they need a running back, and their running backs, they're going through injury problems, too, or bye week problems, and they need somebody, and you got these guys on your roster. Not only is he on your roster, you may not play him against him, but you prevent him from playing him against you. So it's like a keep-away cat-and-mouse kind of game, too.
You know what? I think that's a great point, too, because I do that a lot, too. Especially, I don't know, I just dabbled in fantasy baseball this year, and I did that same thing. If I had an extra spot on my bench or on my IR, I'd grab a guy off the waiver wire and stash him so that nobody else could have him and use him against me.
That's a pretty good strategy. It's something kind of what I did towards the end of last year. The guy had Jonathan Stewart. He went down, and I didn't really know who to cuff Stewart with, so I ended up picking up Artis Payne and Whitaker on the waiver wire to block him. And at that point, I had 8 or 9 running backs, and only 4 receivers, but I had 4 really good receivers, so I was totally fine with that, and ended up playing out pretty good considering that he had a really bad week. But yeah, that's another thing that you can do as well, is block people's handcuffs.
That's funny that you say that, because I actually did the same thing in my league to the guy too, where he had Stewart and Stewart went down and there was nobody really left for him to scavenge for a running back. I also made a couple phone calls to a couple league mates too, and I made sure that they picked up anything off the wire too for me. Little gamesmanship sometimes is in due.
Now, hey, PK, I got a quick question for you, not to get too much off topic, but I do want to pick your brain on one player in particular because he's kind of an enigma to me. What do you think about Kobe Fleener. I cannot figure that guy out. Is he just a bad football player, or do you think that he's a guy you might be targeting this year because of that offense he's in?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle ground because, like you said, because the offense he's in, and Drew Brees tends to make tight ends really good. But I'll tell you what, coming out of training camp, all the news I'm hearing, because I cover news feeds for Pyromaniac.com, and I stay pretty current to what players are doing and how they're handling their situations. And Fleener is just right now, the reports I'm getting from beat writers out there is that he's just not getting it. He's not getting the playbook fast enough, and he's just not on the same page with Brees. That's not to say that later in the season he might come on. But for right now, I'm kind of like I'm not as high on him as others. You could take a chance on him, but I'm not going to draft him where his ADP is. I mean, he's going pretty high right now for a tight end. I think what is he like tight end 5, tight end 6 right now going? Come on, I can't pay.
You almost got to get him at the. You almost got to get him at the beginning of the 6th round, and I've been hearing a lot of the same reports you are. He's not on the same page as Brees. It looked like he did have a pretty good catch down the seam the other night, but it got called back on a holding, so it's nice to see. But I'd really like to see him get a grasp of that playbook before you end up taking him in, like, the 6th round. Like, I think that's a little bit too early for a tight end, in my opinion. I like to kind of wait a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that Sean Payton, he said the other night, he said some plays are, like, really great from him, some plays are really bad, some plays are we need to improve on this, and that's not what you like to hear, this close to the regular season, definitely, because there's guys like, Julius Thomas, kind of going around that same area, maybe like a round later, that I'd rather have that has that, that touchdown upside, and I think that, Julius Thomas shows you, what he's got in the red zone, so just by comparison, I was just kind of picking your brain to see where you had him valued at, because I'm not too high on Fleener this year. I never have been. So,
I mean, that could be another guy that maybe you could. It could be a guy that you could maybe target in a trade later on in the season if he does tend to get the playbook and start making some plays. But it's not really a guy that I used to be real high on him because I thought he was going to be like a top 10 guy. But now that I'm hearing some reports that he's not really getting the playbook, I'm starting to coming down a little bit on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just where his draft value is, and what are you going to get on your return of investment with him? You're not. I just don't trust it. I don't trust it. There's other guys out there who I could draft later, who I feel better about. Like a Clive Walford or even guy in San Francisco there. I got his name.
Vance McDonald.
Yeah, Vance McDonald looks really good to me. I'd rather take a chance on him and where I can draft him. And half of the leagues, he's not even being drafted.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is true. What you know what though? Because you said Vance McDonald, I had another question. Since we were talking about strength of schedule, San Francisco has the worst strength of schedule in the entire league this year. Is that like kind of concerning you with like a guy like Vance McDonald? Because I'm pretty high on him too. But against the pass, they have a pretty rough strength of schedule.
Yeah, but teams like that tend to, if they got a rough strength of schedule against the pass, where's the quarterback going to look to throw?
Yeah, check down to that tight end.
He's going to check down to that tight end a lot because that's a safety blanket, So I think the middle of the field will be enough for him, and in PPR he should be fine too.
Yeah, well,
especially if they're playing from behind all the time, you'll get a lot of that garbage time points too.
Yeah, too. Him and Gabbert showed some chemistry last year too. So good point. Yeah, I was just curious because if we are talking about strength of schedule, it's always a good question to bring up. But yeah, I think you answered that great. It was San Francisco. I think that's going to be a big check down team because Gabbert's not a very confident quarterback. So. Now,
if you're a guy that's looking to draft Le'Veon Bell, or say you already have Le'Veon Bell on your team, what are like some running backs that you think could fill his hole while he's gone? I'm kind of looking at Isaiah Crowell. I know he plays on Cleveland, but their first like 4 games are all games where they shouldn't get blown out, and I think that they'll be able to stick with their game plan and run the ball.
Yeah, I like Cleveland. Isaiah Crowell. I mean,
exactly.
He's going under the radar a little bit, and I think he's going to get the bulk of the carries. I like Hugh Jackson over there. I think he kind of brings that dynamic that he had with Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill over there. He's going to probably do something with Crowell and Duke Johnson there. And I expect big things from them, especially in the beginning of the season, because they're going to try to lean on the run to set RG3 up with some play action and try to get him going too.
If you think about it, like Crowell and Duke aren't really that far off from, say, Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill. They're both the same kind of duo almost.
Yeah, similar playing styles, right? Exactly. I see it. It's kind of like that Batman and Robin kind of thing too. The thing is there's Andy Dalton over there and AJ Green. You know what I mean? So it kind of helps out a little bit with the running game too. Cleveland has yet to establish that true passing threat, and that receiving threat as of now.
They play Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Miami for those first 3 games. If you got Le'Veon Bell, you could potentially use Isaiah Crowell to kind of put him in that spot until Le'Veon Bell comes back.
Yeah, excellent point. I was going to say, since you brought up Cincinnati, looking at their ADPs, Jeremy Hill, obviously going a little earlier. Who do you like better in that backfield? Do you like Gio Bernard or do you like Jeremy Hill? Because I'm hearing a lot of good things about Jeremy Hill, but I had him last year. He kind of burnt my team. What are you thinking, PK?
It depends on which league you're playing in. I believe PPR, I like Gio better, and Standard, I like Jeremy better. As far as touchdowns, you're going to go with Jeremy Hill because he's going to be the guy who's going to smash between the tackles, But Gio, very capable, especially right now with Eifert out. He's going to be playing that part of the field. You don't be surprised if they do a lot of 2-back sets too coming into the season with Eifert out, just to kind of try to expand that area a little bit more where Eifert is being missing.
Yeah, good point.
Any other backs that you could see potentially stepping into that role while Le'Veon Bell is out?
Bell is out. I mean, it depends where you want to draft from when you're grabbing your second running back. You know what I mean? If you're going to come in and you're going to grab one later, if you're going to grab one earlier. If you're going to grab one earlier, I really like Lamar Miller. Also, Eddie Lacy could be somebody to grab too. But if you're going to wait on a running back, and you could go with Philly there, and you can grab Ryan Matthews, and he could be fine for you for the first couple of weeks.
That's a good late round streamer, but you also got to watch out because he's a walking hospital. So
yeah, we all know that, and it's a middle of the road strength and schedule for him in the beginning. Also, you could try it. Danny Woodhead has always been solid.
Oh yeah, nickel and dime king.
And he finishes.
He does tend to slip
good too. Yeah,
he tends
I
to
don't know
slip
why
in drafts
either.
too.
What did he finish? 8th overall last year, Standard too. Was it?
Yeah,
that's in standard leagues.
Yeah, in standard leagues, and that's not even PPR. I mean, you can't go wrong with somebody like that. I try
I'm pretty
to stay
sure
away
PPR he
from
finished like top 3 the last 3 years, except for the year he got hurt.
He's great. He's a great player, and he doesn't go that early either. You can get him in later rounds, at least past the 6th round.
Yeah, great point on Danny Woodhead. I love having him on my team. Last 2 seasons I've had him on my team, and he'll have his games where he gives you a big goose egg, but man, when he blows up, he blows up. I think I had him last year, and he scored 2 touchdowns in one game. Yeah, was it 4? Oh my God, yeah, that dude was like on a fucking tear that game. That was great.
All right, the next thing I want to bring up is like the best and worst times to actually start making your trades. I think probably like the worst time to make a trade, I think, is towards like the beginning of the season. You'll see some of the worst trades made there, or it's the best trades, depending on what side of the trade you're on. But I think that some people try to pull the trigger a little bit too early in the season when they do their trades.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you value a player, how you look at the player, and you drafted them for what reason. I have players on my team who I'll draft for the purpose of trading. And I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to leave him sit here, and whatever, if he blows up, he blows up, and then I'll sell high. It all depends on. See, when you're trading, it's kind of like, when is this guy ready at his highest? Where can I get the max value of this guy? And then you want to sell him before the fall happens too. So you kind of got to look at where the player is at individually. He could peak at week 2, and you're like, okay, I got to get rid of him now because this is when I'm going to get the most value for him before he slips, Or he could blow up in week 2 and be good for the rest of the season, and you trade him, and then you're shooting yourself in the foot. It could work either way.
That's why I'm saying it's like a double-edged sword at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, doubt.
Exactly.
Like, I made a controversial trade last year where I traded Mike Evans for Greg Olson. And, it actually ended up playing out pretty well because, Mike Evans only had like 3 touchdowns and Greg Olson was pretty consistent throughout the season. But at the time, it was kind of like, well, this is a pretty big risk I'm taking, but I need a tight end.
Yeah, considering how slow Evans started, too. It could look good, too. I mean, in one of my leagues, Mike Evans got traded for Brandon Marshall. Because somebody believed in his upside like that. And Brandon Marshall was just a model of consistency all year. So it was like, why would you get rid of him? But last year, everybody has their own way.
Yeah, well, and talking about risk, too, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I took a big risk by I traded DeAndre Hopkins for Keenan Allen, and, Keenan Allen got hurt. They were pretty much same stat line until Keenan Allen got hurt. Because I believed in Keenan Allen more than I did DeAndre, and I was like, I made a fucking mistake. But, just to see, every trade has an inherent risk, but make sure you're not getting ripped off.
And the injury thing is fluky thing, too. Sometimes you can't predict that from happening. You know what I mean? It's like kind of like if you go when you're looking at players and you're looking at them and you're judging them by touchdown dependency. Touchdowns can be fluky, too. I'm really looking at players who are I want target volume. That's the first thing I look at when I'm looking at a player. Is I want to see he's the one getting the attention from the quarterback or from the offensive coordinator. He's the one the ball's going through. Otherwise, the touchdowns, they'll come with that, But if they don't got it, I don't want to live and die with a guy being able to have touchdowns. Like Julio Jones last year, what did he have, 3 touchdowns? And come on, dude, it's all world with receptions. So I rode him to a championship too. I was
gonna say we get called pretty crazy because we're really high on Keenan Allen here. Now, do you think that like I said, not getting too far off topic here, but do you like a guy like AJ Green over Keenan Allen, or But I think that Keenan Allen's gonna have a little better volume than AJ Green, if you know what I'm saying.
I think that
I don't know if
AJ's gonna get peppered. I was just going to say, I think AJ's going to get peppered, but, I've seen him struggle with double coverage in the past, and I think that he's going to get double covered a lot this season.
What I see with AJ Green is AJ Green will give you a couple of monster games sprinkled in with a little bit of mediocre and then some mid-range games. You know what I mean? Keenan Allen, he's a target monster too. But the thing is the health thing, And last year was kind of like when his real coming out. From his rookie year to his second year, he ran into that sophomore slump in his second year. And then last year, he started coming on before he got hurt. It comes down to sometimes which quarterback do I like better, I like Phillip Rivers a lot more than I like Andy Dalton. Okay, and I believe Phillip Rivers is going to end the season as a top 5 quarterback. That's just my opinion.
I do believe that too.
But I mean, when it comes down to picking players, it's not only the player itself; it's who's feeding him the ball. What's the offense he's in? So with AJ Green, I like AJ Green a lot, and I like Keenan Allen a lot. In my rankings, I would have AJ Green a little bit ahead. But I wouldn't be surprised if Keenan Allen surpasses him by the end of the season.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, and then the caveat off of the volume is you got to look at how many points are they scoring percentage-wise from touchdowns, too. Like a guy like Tyler Eifert, I think he scored more than like 30% of his points off of touchdowns, and he didn't really have a lot of volume compared to all the tight ends that were finishing towards the end of the season. Like they all had a lot more targets. So, I mean, it's another thing that you got to look at when you're drafting your players and throughout the season as well.
Yeah, then you're talking touchdown dependency again when you're talking Tyler Eifert. You know what I mean? Because what was the percentage of points coming? I forget what it was for him coming in. As far as his percentage of his points were from touchdowns. I think it was like over 30%. Yeah, so I mean, I don't look for that to repeat. That's for sure. Especially with him missing games anyway. But yeah, it's touchdown dependency. If you got a guy who's sitting there and he's leaning on everything in the end zone and it doesn't come his way, then you don't have anything. You could look at Antonio Gates. He's a touchdown dependent type player too, but he finds his way in the end zone and Rivers looks for him. And that's where it comes to, like I said with the tight ends and who's looking at who's giving him the targets,
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that whoever the quarterback is does play a pretty big role in where I'm ranking my receivers, so that brings up a pretty good point. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit more.
Eifert's percentage from touchdowns of his fantasy points, 55.9.
Oh, it's even higher than I thought it was. That's insane.
55.
That has to be some kind of record.
This is off the Pyromaniac draft kit too. So this is 59%, 55.9%. Was a lot of,
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Off of touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I kind of stay away from that guy.
Yeah, definitely. And with him missing games already, I'm definitely staying away.
Plus,
his ADP is unreal right now. Like he's going way, 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 way too high, even for that.
Especially the fact he's going to be missing some games.
Yeah, like 4 games or so, right? I mean, he's going to miss the first month of football. You're going to take a chance, and but that's when you grab a Clive Walford and you can keep him on the bench, and then if he does explode, at least you'll have the play with,
and like you said, if you have that IR spot, you could put him in that IR spot until he comes back, and then once he comes back, he should be good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
He's a guy to watch out for too on that.
I've been reading a book on like psychology of fantasy football and how much psychology actually plays a part in the fantasy football, and how like some people's personalities tend to sway them or make poor decisions. Have you guys looked into that at all?
As far as the psychology of fantasy football, I mean, you're gonna like players based on by certain things. You're gonna like them either. You're gonna like the team he's on. You're gonna like the strength of schedule he's playing against, or you might just like his jersey number. You know what I mean? It could be so many stupid factors that play into it. But it's not just liking the player. It's like knowing if the player is not exceeding your expectations, when to cut him. When to let go. Don't sit there and hold on and wait for the train to get back on the track, because sometimes you wait for that train to get back on track. It just never happens.
And
absolutely.
You could play off of people's personalities a little bit. It's like, say, if like this person's like a high-strung personality and he's a guy that tends to pull the trigger fast, you might be able to just throw a trade that might look good on paper, but in all reality, you're actually getting the better end of the deal. Or you can dangle some players in front of him that he really likes that you're not really so high on, and then you can work the value that way as well.
Oh yeah, no doubt. That's the great trade strategy right there. You sit there and you bait him out, and let him see the shiny new player that could look good on his roster, and tell him the down points of the player who's on his roster. You don't really need him, but I like him a lot. I just like his team. You can shoot. You could bullshit him all you want until he makes a trade with you. But so it all depends on the personality of the player who you're going, who you're trying to get the player from. Because some players don't bite on that. Some people in leagues won't bite on it, and some will. It just comes back to knowing who your league mates are, and how long you've been in a league will determine how well you know them.
Absolutely.
So, PK, is there anything else that you got any tips throughout the season that you could throw in there?
Tips, yeah. Kind of you could kind of watch your matchups coming up. Like 3 weeks in advance is one of the things that I'm really big on is I try to be 3 weeks ahead of the game. You know what I mean? If I see a matchup coming up and then I could say, okay, how can I make sure this matchup is coming up without hurting my matchup currently, but looking who's available, maybe on someone else's roster or on the wire or anything that I could do to keep players away, just try to see who's available on a bye. Maybe you can make a play for another player and see, hey, their wide receiver, they got 2 receivers who are going to be on bye, and there's 2 receivers available on the waiver wire that they could use in those coming weeks. Let me just scoop those guys up and just roster them so it'll limit his options, you know?
And then they're scraping at the barrel. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that I do I guess it's really not so much in season, but like during the draft, what I'll do is I'll either get like a draft board or I'll get like pen and paper, and I'll start writing down everyone's picks. And then once the later on the draft, like, oh, this guy doesn't really have a quarterback, and neither do I. He's picking after me, so maybe I'm going to scoop my quarterback up now, and then he's going to have to pick someone else.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's very true. That's a great strategy. Yeah, I like looking at where people are going in front of me, and I know guys that have there's some guys that you play with too that are like roster completionists, and before they even look at their bench, they're looking at, like you said, Johnny, like the Seattle and the Denver D, and they're looking at freaking, the best kicker like a Graham Gano or somebody, they're looking to complete their starting roster before they look at their bench, and I think those guys are idiots. You're like, fuck, I'm gonna wait on the defense and I'll start stacking my bench, because potentially you could have, 3 badass receivers, for your first 3 picks. And then, your 4th receiver is a guy you take a mid-round flyer on, like Josh Gordon, Who's mad about that?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, too. It's just when you come out of that draft, okay, if you're talking draft, you're coming out of that draft, I want to come out of the first 8 rounds with at least 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers.
Absolutely.
And then everything else can wait. I'm not going to sit there and try to fill my roster in. I don't need Gostkowski. You know what I mean? I could sit there and I'll grab a mediocre kicker for the first week, and I'll grab Josh Brown, who probably nobody's going to draft because he's suspended for a week, and then grab him, and he hits like 93% of his kicks, And I think
he was the number 2 kicker last year.
Yeah, and he's not going to get drafted because of the 1 week.
Absolutely,
because everybody's looking for that kicker for the first week. So what? I'll roster 2 kickers for the first week and dump the other guy, and I'll have Josh Brown for the rest of the season. I'll be fine.
Yeah,
pick up a flyer on the bye.
Yeah, I'm a guy that I'm perfectly content with not even drafting a defense. Like I'm a guy like I play matchups and stream defenses all year, and there's people that'll be drafting defenses in like the 9th, 10th, 11th round. And I'm just like, well, I'm gonna stack up my bench while they're picking like these players or these defenses like that, and then I'll just pretty much play like whatever defense is playing, like San Francisco, I know, or Tennessee or something like that.
The previous years it was Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna look for that, but part of it too is be careful when you do that and know your league scoring too, because sometimes defenses do have value in certain leagues, and you're gonna wait and stream and you're gonna get stuck with garbage, and this other team is gonna have a pretty decent defense and they'll be able to score points just from the defense. Don't undermine the defense so much too, because you know what, you do have to start one. You know what I mean? And their points can be valuable. Their points can be the difference of you winning or losing a week at the end, too.
That's something I played in the league before in the past where your defenses were putting up averaging like 30, 40 points a week, and I didn't know that, and I ended up getting stuck with a weaker defense, and it hurt me all year long,
Yeah, it comes down to knowing the scoring, yeah.
Yeah, but look at because like for instance last year, I drafted Denver's defense with one of my really, really extremely late picks, and we all know what happened there. I got the number 1 defense in the league, and then I ended up flipping them for some trade bait later. But yeah, the first 5 weeks they were scoring me like 20 points a game, and I was like, well, hell yeah. But the thing is, my point is that you're going to pay too high of a price this year for Denver's D. So find that hidden gem. For me this year, I think that New York's defense, the Giants, I think that's a kind of a hidden gem as far as defenses go. They spent a lot of money in the offseason improving that defense, and it consistently in drafts, I'm able to take them in the 15th round.
Yeah, I'm not as high on the Giants' defense as you are, because I remember a couple of years back when Philly picked up all those free agents, and they thought, oh, this is the dream team, right? Remember that?
Yeah, it was the nightmare team.
Yeah, exactly. So they still have to play together and gel together, So I'm not that high on them. A defense that I am pretty high on, and you can get pretty late. It could be Oakland defense too, the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's another one I'm looking at. Yeah,
and it all depends. But usually, yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that's my point right there. Find that hidden gem. Don't spend too high of a price on Seattle or Denver when you can. There is a defense this year that will blow up that you can get late.
Bro, you could get Kansas City defense, who always seem to be up there in scoring points, because they create turnovers. What it all depends on scoring. I'll grab Philly defense sometimes because they get turnovers, and that could be very
valuable. Green Bay.
Yeah.
Look, sometimes that's the kind of defenses I look for, is the defenses that it might not necessarily be really good defenses, but they get a lot of turnovers, and that's the kind of defenses I like to get.
Yeah, Cincinnati
opportunistic,
too.
Right. Exactly. You want the opportunistic defenses, the defenses that create plays, Not so much, they might not stop your running game, and they might not be world beaters against the pass, but they create turnovers and they score points on the defensive end.
Very true. Very true.
All right. So, Kamo, is there any tips that you'd like to bring up that you'd like to do during the season that we haven't brought up already?
Well, yeah. I think there was a couple of things PK brought up that I like to highlight too. The biggest thing, and I think we've probably killed the dead horse here on this one, but know your league. Definitely know your league, because there's some leagues where I play and you get an extra bench spot. You can stash another guy. Or, it gives you more flexibility to drop a player and pick one up off the waiver wire, and you got that IR spot. And honestly, in every league that I have an IR spot on, I'm going to utilize that IR spot. I'm going to, if I have a free bench spot, I'll get an injured player that I think might come back in the season, put him on that IR spot. Like what I'm saying is like stack your roster. There should be no empty bench space on that thing. There should be no empty IR spot. Like stack that thing, because for the sake of nobody else can get that player. I think that's the best thing too. And also another thing that I think I've highlighted a couple times too is make sure. I mean, why not in the later rounds grab somebody else's handcuff, because then that guy gets injured. A guy I'm looking at is his name escapes me right now, but Adrian Peterson's backup, because a lot of tread on those tires.
McKinnon.
Yeah, Jarrett McKinnon. A lot of tread on those tires. He's a guy that I really think could be in for a down year this year. I'm not saying that he's an all-world player, definitely, but I think that he's going to start hitting that wall here pretty soon.
Well, the thing with McKinnon, too, is McKinnon started coming on towards the end of last year, too, and he was spelling Peterson in the passing downs a lot, too. So, he could have a bigger role. But I think with the handcuffs you got to be careful with is knowing which handcuff to take. Because last year, look at Jamal Charles goes down, everybody's thinking Niall Davis, and then Sarkandrick West, Spencer Ware. Who is it? Who's it going to be this year?
Yeah, that was hilarious. That was hilarious.
You've got to be careful, and then which running backs are worth handcuffing, and which handcuff is worth taking. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? You're gonna grab Justin Forsett and you're going to try to handcuff him with Buck Allen, and then you're going to get shot in the foot because, oh, crap, who knows where that's going to go. Is the handcuff you're grabbing better than another team's number one running back? You know what I mean? You're going to grab another guy's handcuff, and you're just saying, just because I want to handcuff this guy, but you have another running back available who's going to get starting carries, and you're going to be like, yo, why? I'll take Rashad Jennings. He's going to get the carries. He's going to get the volume. The Giants showed last year when they went away from that running back by committee later in the year that Jennings can do some things, and he's going late too. And I'll grab him before I grab somebody crazy like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you bring up a great point, because that's not what if you got a starter, easily take the starter. I'm saying if you got a shit ton of handcuffs, and you got a bench spot, just shot in the dark, grab you know what I'm saying? But great point. If you're got a guy getting starter reps, somebody going late like Isaiah Crowell, like you said, Rashad Jennings, I grab those guys easily.
And then you also got to look at, during the draft, where are your handcuffs being drafted at? Because, you got, D'Angelo Williams, he's a great handcuff and everything. He's going in, the 6th round, though. I think that's a kind of a pricey pick for a handcuff, don't you think?
Well, it's not just a handcuff, too, with D'Angelo Williams this year. I think they're really going to try to exploit some things in the passing game with Le'Veon when it comes back, and D'Angelo. They might run more of a pro set offense with D'Angelo running behind Roethlisberger, with Le'Veon coming out of the backfield pass catching a lot more. So there might be situations like that they might have. I think D'Angelo has proven that when he's in, he's still an RB1. You know what I mean? So he's kind of that exception to the rule, really.
Yeah, definitely. Now, is it safe to say that you probably won't be taking Le'Veon in any drafts, PK, or is he a guy that's still maybe on your radar in the second round?
Yeah, well, a lot of the drafts I'm in, I'm not bragging or nothing, but I'm at the turn, you know, because when you win your league, you're stuck at the 12. So I'm at the 12, and yeah, if Le'Veon's there, I'm grabbing him. Why not? I got a chance to have the best running back in football when he comes back at the 12th pick of the draft, and then the 13th, I'll grab Doug Martin or Lamar Miller and say, okay, I got my running back. I can live with that.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, I have.
If you're picking at the back of the round, that does kind of make sense a little bit because, like you say, when he comes back, he's going to be all world.
Oh yeah,
no
for
doubt.
sure.
How do you pass up on that? You know, even if you grab him and then you grab a nice wide receiver who might be available. You know, some leagues, Allen Robinson is there at the 13th. I mean, there's some mocks that
I've seen him
running
consistently
that
go there.
I got players, you know. You know, so I mean, I would grab that and then come back in the next round and go running back, and then have that solidified. I think receiver is deeper the more than people think. You know, I look at guys and everybody's like they want to run that zero running back. I think let them run the zero running back, and then I'll grab the running backs.
That's what I said too. I said it on this show. I said there's a lot of late wide receiver value, and I like that a lot of the running backs that are going early, just like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent that I'm also a person that likes to pick towards the back of the draft. That way it gives you an idea of, like, where the draft is going, where the positional runs are at, and then you can either be in charge of ending those runs by, like, oh, everyone's picking receiver, I'm going running back. Or you can actually start runs like, oh, we're in, like, this, like, I don't know, mid-round, and I'm going to take a quarterback, and then all the quarterbacks start coming off.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to set the trend of the draft a little bit, dictate it. Definitely, that's a big part of it, too, is being able to have the foresight to see that happening, you know, see where it's going. And then when the draft trends your way and when it's your pick and you can start that trend and then, okay, well, I got the better of it. It's like you put yourself in a position where, okay, I have an opportunity to draft the number one running back, the number 4 wide receiver, the number 1 quarterback, and the number 1 tight end. Who are you going to tend to gravitate to, really? You know, are you going to tend to gravitate toward those number 1s or those number 4 guys?
Exactly. It gives you the opportunity to snag them before everyone else. And a big thing that you need to do in order to be able to do this is something we haven't really touched up on yet is positional tiers. If you have your tiers set up, you'll know, well, do I want a tier 1 running back or do I want a tier 2 wide receiver, you know?
Yeah, and it all depends on the way you build your team. Everybody has their own mindset on how they build their team, how you construct your roster. You know, do you want to be a running back heavy team? Do you want to be wide receiver, gunshot, you know, kind of team? Or are you thinking if I have Cam and Gronk and I want to build around them? There's different people who come into a draft with a different mindset on how to build a team, and then kind of going through the draft will help dictate where you see that happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had another question for you, PK, just out of curiosity. Yeah. I know we mentioned it earlier about the quarterbacks and how you like that to play into who you're going to select in the draft, like what situation are they in. Now, you're obviously, I think the consensus at number 1 is Antonio Brown, but at number 2, I'm a little hazy here because I like Julio more than I like Odell. Where are you at with the number 2 debate?
The thing is I like Odell. I think Odell is the number 2. AB, hands down, is the number 1. And I had Julio last year, and I love Julio. But something about Odell, he's just so explosive, you know. After the catch, he makes you miss, and he's uncanny, bro. His target volume, you know where he's going and everything like that, and he could take it to the house anytime. Julio had the letdown pretty much from the touchdown standpoint, you know. Not saying that Beckham was, you know. Beckham had 13 touchdowns last year, you know, the Julio's whatever, you know, so.
Yeah.
It's like,
where I have it right now, I think that both receivers are probably going to be pretty close in receptions, but like PK said, I'd like to see Julio score more touchdowns, I think that Beckham has more of a touchdown upside because back to years he's had double-digit touchdowns, and I think Julio's only done it like once or twice in his career, so that's another reason why I have Beckham over Julio.
Plus, another
that is a very good point.
Is which offensive line is going to give the quarterback more time? You know, because I see Beckham, he could catch an underneath route and bang it out and take it. He runs more of those underneath routes too than Julio does. You know, Julio's more of the outside kind of guy unless they shift him around a little bit, but they have to shift him around to make him be able to have that play. Beckham's natural is like all over the field.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
I think that the Giants, they're more of like a West Coast offense where they get rid of the ball real quick and not so much Atlanta. So.
And actually, speaking of strength of schedule, New York technically does have it has against the pass. It has the fourth best strength of schedule. So that's another thing to look at too. I think that Odell has a really favorable schedule as far as pass goes. And plus, you look at it too. The only thing that maybe shies me away, but not really, is the fact that he has to play Josh Norman twice a year, and we all saw how that ended last year. But like I said, that's not shying me away too much. I am too. I love that. I love that matchup.
But I'm not buying on the Josh Norman thing because I think a lot of things came into play with Josh Norman doing so well last year, and that's the front seven of Carolina is a lot better than the front seven of Washington.
Yeah, it's all about scheme.
I agree. I'm not completely sold on Josh Norman. I know we're getting a little off topic here, but yeah, I'm not sold on him either. I want to see more of him because I think that a lot of teams in Carolina they had to respect that front seven, so they would release the ball earlier and those sort of things. But I think that Washington, I'm hearing things out of camp like he's not the guy that we think he is. He's getting burnt by D-Jax on a consistent basis. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You're seeing a lot of film and him getting burnt. But you got to remember too, he's new to their defense too. So there might be a slight learning curve there going on to their scheme. But yeah, like I said, I just don't think the front seven of Washington is the same caliber as the one in Carolina. So I think it's going to be harder for him to make so many plays. Plus, he's going to have a tough. He's going to have to play Dez. He's going to have to play Odell Beckham. There's some receivers out there.
Yeah, very true.
In the NFC East that he's going to have to contend with.
Now, who's your number one running back overall?
My number one running back, in standard, I like Gurley. In PPR, I like David Johnson, and I'm really high on Lamar Miller too, though.
Yeah.
I actually have Lamar Miller as my number one running back. Well, I don't really have him ranked there, but I think he could finish there.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. That's why I said he's right there. I love David Johnson, though. I like his game, the way he plays, the way he runs and catches. He's excellent, and Gurley's just smash mouth.
Oh, yeah. In PPR, I definitely agree. I have David Johnson ranked number one. It's close, though. It's really close between him and Gurley. Like, for me, honestly, if I'm sitting at number 4 and say Antonio, Julio, and Odell all go off the board, 1, 2, 3, and I got that selection, it's going to be a really tough choice. I think, though, that knowing your league is going to take effect because PPR, I think I'm going to take David. Hell, I might even take Lamar Miller because I'm really high on him too. I think that he's going to have an amazing year this year too. So, that's interesting. I was just curious where you were with that.
Yeah, we're all pretty much in the same boat there. Also, don't sleep on Zeke, man. I mean, just because the situation alone. But I'll tell you what, he looked good the other night too.
He did. He looked great.
I mean, he could be one of those guys who just could wow you like Gurley did last year and David Johnson did last year. He could be one of those guys too.
Well, and don't forget, too, what AP did his rookie year. I mean, he had nearly 1,500 yards rushing and, just had an unworldly year for a rookie. I mean, I don't see why that can't happen. He's got a great front seven in Dallas. He's got a great situation. I'm looking at him more if I pick at the back of the first because I do like the guys we just said more than I like Elliott. But, I mean, definitely don't sleep on him.
But the difference is with those guys and Elliott is you've seen them do something.
Exactly.
Plays,
right.
You see, you got something to build on, and you don't. But think of the guy who took a chance on Gurley last year. He paid off.
Get him in the 5th round, and he ended up exploding.
Yeah, I mean, Zeke's price is high, Don't get me wrong. It's real high because he's going in the first rounds. You know what I mean? This is for a rookie running back. I'd rather wait it out and take a Doug Martin in the second round or Jamal Charles.
Yeah, I'm really high on Doug Martin. So.
Yeah, me too.
Is there any other rookie running backs outside of Zeke that you could see making a pretty big impact this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Derrick Henry.
That's a good point. I've been hearing good things.
I just feel a lot of work. Yeah, he's underrated as a pass catcher is what they're saying out of Tennessee, and looking at some of the stuff that they got posted up there, he's looking the part. He looks the part. You know, he passes the eye test, they would say, but you know, I like him a lot, and then Devontae Booker. I think there could be an opportunity later in the season for him in Denver.
Last 3 years, the backup running backs from Denver ended up being the starter.
Yeah. And the starters are always getting banged up and hurt, right?
Yeah, and Devontae Booker, man, that dude was killing it at Utah, and now I love that situation. I'm personally a Broncos fan, as you both know, but I love Devontae Booker. I think that he's, as far as talent-wise in that roster, I think he's the best running back, and there might be an opportunity opening up for him real soon.
Yeah, because C.J. Anderson isn't the perfect bill of health every season either.
Definitely not, but I do like where his ADP's at.
And then another rookie I like too, DeAndre Washington in Oakland.
Yeah.
He's looked pretty impressive so far as well. I think that he could steal some work away from Tavius Murray, but I think in tandem, I think they're going to work pretty well together, especially with that built-up offensive line they got. That's another guy you can look at is DeAndre Washington.
Yeah, no doubt.
So we're closing in on we're just over an hour. I think we're pretty close to the end of the show. PK, do you have any final thoughts or last words?
Yeah. You could, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Amaze652, or you can follow my content. I'm big on pyromaniac.com. You can check me out too. I'm doing more write-ups on the pro version as far as news feeds and stuff, and you could check me out there. And I'll just say one more thing about some kind of mid-in-season strategy. I got one more thing for you before we go. Is whenever possible, bro, keep a Monday night play in your pocket, because Monday night is the last game of the week, and if you got a player and you're down by points and you want to steal that matchup, that Monday night player could save your week, could save your season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because Rashad Jennings killed me in the playoffs last year, killed my playoff hopes. You're right, though.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah, PK, it's been a joy bringing you on, man. I heard your shit on the other night with Pyro, and you were fire. That's why I thought, man, we got to get this guy on the show. You did your thing again. Yep. All right, K-Mel, you got any last words?
No, thanks for joining us, PK. We really appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. We're big fans.
No doubt, bro. Me too. Same here, man.
All right, so that'll do it for the Fifth Down. I hope we gave you your extra down advantage. Follow us on Twitter at the Fifth Down SF. Leave us a rating review on iTunes. Subscribe that shit as well. And that'll do it for the Fifth Down. Peace out, Fifth Downers.